In today's video, we're recapping Stopmotion, a chilling animated horror film that delves into the depths of classic psychological horror, portraying the struggles of a tortured artist in a nightmarish and sensory-stimulating manner. Before we get started, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Ella Blake, daughter of the renowned stop-motion animator Suzanne Blake, finds herself entangled in her mother's passion for stop-motion despite her own lack of interest. Suzanne, now unable to pursue her dream due to arthritis, imposes her unfulfilled dreams onto her daughter, manipulating her emotionally, much like she once manipulated her characters. Currently, Ella is engrossed in working on her mother's project, trying to balance her own desires with her mother's expectations. Ella, feeling frustrated, went to a bar to meet her boyfriend Tom and his sister Polly, who is also a stop-motion animator. After spending the night with Tom, Ella hurried back home before her mother woke up. Upon returning home, she found herself needing to jump straight into work. Unexpectedly, Suzanne suffered a stroke and Ella rushed her to the hospital. The doctors informed Ella that Suzanne was in a coma. Devastated, Ella grappled with the overwhelming news. Ella paid a visit to Tom's place and spent some time with him for a while. However, she realized that she had pending work that needed to be completed. Despite having her own home, Ella decided to rent a studio to have a dedicated space where she could focus and finish her tasks uninterrupted. Once settled in the studio, she initiated the Cyclops animation from the beginning, ready to dive into her work once again. Meanwhile, as Ella is working on her project, a young girl suddenly appears outside her flat and expresses a keen interest in seeing what Ella is creating. Despite Ella's initial reservations, she decides to share her work and explain the intricacies of stop-motion animation to the girl. However, the little girl expresses impatience with the process and finds the storyline boring. She boldly suggests that Ella should start anew and even shares her own story idea for Ella to consider implementing in her work. In the depths of the woods, a frightened girl finds herself lost and alone. Unbeknownst to her, a mysterious figure is slowly approaching. The girl suggests to Ella that she use Mortician's wax to create the girl figure. After a brief conversation, Ella politely asks the girl to leave, explaining that she needs to do some work. She worked hard on the project and then fell asleep. When she woke up, she found that an entirely new set had been created based on the little girl's idea. Not only that, but an animated video was also made to bring the girl's story to life. Despite the surprise, she didn't feel puzzled about who had created it. She thought she might have accomplished it herself before falling asleep. Polly, Tom's sister, comes to see Ella. When she sees her new project, she invites her into her office for a conversation. As Polly was leaving, the small girl approached Ella and asked to see the film. However, the little girl believes that the girl in the film does not look natural, so she suggests that instead of wax, Ella should use raw meat to make her. She pushes Ella into doing it in exchange for disclosing the rest of the story. Then she begins to tell the story. The girl runs into the woods and finds a house where she decides to hide. A menacing figure known as the Ashman is in pursuit of her. The Ashman will come for 3 nights. Ella also makes the Ashman appear terrifying, but at the same time, natural, using raw meat. In the darkness of the night, the mysterious girl reappears and leads Ella into the eerie woods. She insists that the Ashman must be crafted from lifeless materials, which prompts her to bring Ella before a dead fox. In a disturbing suggestion, the girl proposes that Ella should make an arm trowel with bones, wrap it in skin, and give it teeth and tongue. Although the girl becomes furious when Ella hesitates to do it, she suddenly leaves angrily, leaving the outcome of the story uncertain. Ella comes to the hospital to apologize to her mother because she couldn't complete her film. Instead, she started a new one, but perhaps she feels incapable of making decisions without guidance. Ella arrived at the bar to meet with Polly, who offered her some drugs. After taking them, Ella's behavior became increasingly peculiar. She displayed unusual behavior by becoming intimate with Tom and interacting with him in a way that showed she was attempting to discern his physical structure. Even more strangely, when a man at the bar sustained a severe injury, she began to touch his wound in an attempt to create the characters with more depth and details. All the while, Ella was being compelled to do these things by the little girl that only she could see. Ella ventured into the woods and stumbled upon the young girl seated beside a lifeless fox. She decided to bring the fox back to her studio with the intention of using it to craft the Ashman. Once the Ashman was complete, seat, the girl began recounting the rest of the story. As the Ashman was coming to the house, she tried to hide, but the Ashman sees her. Every time Ella attempted to take a photo of her work, the doorbell would ring, interrupting her. As she approached the door, she noticed a figure resembling the Ashman slowly making his way to her apartment. Startled, she quickly closed the door, only to find that the little girl she had seen before had vanished. Overwhelmed with fear, she realized that the unsettling story that the little girl told before was unfolding around her. Peering through the peephole, she was confronted by the sight of a chilling eye staring directly back at her. Ella suddenly lost consciousness. When she eventually woke up, Tom was by her side. Despite the events appearing to spiral out of control after Ella supposedly took the drug given by Polly the previous night, she realized that she actually had never consumed it. Ella told Tom about the events of the previous night. Tom then surprised her by showing an animation that exactly depicted what had happened the night before. Disturbed and bewildered, Ella had no memory of filming the events, and feeling terrified, she decided to go with Tom to his place. She tries hard to distract her mind, but she keeps dreaming about the female character from the film approaching her and trying to get under her skin. Despite Tom's attempts to comfort her, she sees the little girl in a restaurant. In the washroom, the girl shows up to tell her the next part of the story. However, Ella doesn't want to hear it anymore because she doesn't want to continue with the film. Still, the little girls keep saying that on the second night, the Ashman touches her. Despite her initial reluctance, something shifted within her, and she found herself reviving with the determination to resume her work. As she immersed herself further in her project, the line between the real world and her creative pursuits began to blur. This led to strange and disturbing occurrences that began to torment her already troubled mind. Ella goes to Polly's office to work with her, but here she sees that Polly has stolen her story and made a film similar to her with some little bits of updates. Ella gets so angry and destroys the whole set. As Ella visits her mother in the hospital, she captures moments with her camera, framing her mother's hand in a way reminiscent of her animation work. In her mind, she envisions her mom coming to life and engaging her in conversation. Suzanne, however, doubts Ella's independence, believing that she is merely a puppet controlled by others, unable to act on her own. Ella goes back to the set filming with a determination to alter the storyline. In her revised version, Ashman will not make physical contact with the girl, and she will manage to escape. However, as the scene unfolds, Ashman unexpectedly rises from the set and begins chasing Ella with the aim of making physical contact with her. Despite Ella's efforts to flee, he eventually catches up to her and touches her face before coercing her into consuming a disgusting black sphere. This ominous egg-shaped object signifies that Ella is symbolically consuming herself in a disturbing and morbid turn of events. She wakes up in a hospital after being found wandering near the building. Tom wants her to stop working as it is severely affecting her. When she goes to meet her mother, she learns that her mom has passed away. At that moment, the little girl appears once again. As they head back to her apartment, Ella unexpectedly tries to harm the girl, convinced that she is responsible for the series of terrible events. Against all odds, the girl survives the attack. She then instructs Ella to open her wound and uses her own flesh to create the character, which symbolizes Ella herself. In the meantime, Tom and Polly arrive to prevent Ella from harming herself. They take her out of her apartment to bring her to the hospital. However, Ella resists and tragically kills both Polly and Tom. As she carries both dead bodies to her flat, she begins to create characters from their flesh in larger sizes. The Ashman starts approaching Ella. When she hides in a cabinet, the Ashman enters and begins to eat her, which is precisely what he intends to do on the third night. In the final scene of the movie, Ella arrives at a cabin in the woods and discovers the little girl watching the film. To her surprise, the film prominently features Ella herself rather than the wax character. As the girl joyfully watches the movie, Ella retreats into a trunk and secludes herself inside.